When you hear the word calcium, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Strong bones, right? We've all had it drilled into us since we were kids. But what if I told you that the most important, the most critical job that calcium has in your body has almost nothing to do with your skeleton? Yeah, let's get into it. So it's totally true that about 99% of all the calcium in your body is locked away in your bones and your teeth. It's the scaffolding, the framework that keeps us all from being just puddles on the floor. It's essential for our long-term health, for sure. But here's the twist. That's not what's keeping you alive right this second.
For that, we gotta zoom in on this tiny little 1%. This is the calcium that's actually circulating in your blood and your soft tissues, and it is so non-negotiable for your survival that if your levels dip even a little, your body will literally steal calcium from your bones to keep this 1% stable. And that's the whole key, right? If your diet is consistently low in calcium, your body is forced to rob that savings account, your skeleton, just to pay for daily expenses, and over time, that's what leads to things like osteoporosis.
I love this analogy because it just nails it. The 99% in your bones, that's your savings account. It's there for long-term stability. But that 1% in your blood, oh, that's the cash in your wallet. It's being spent every single second on the millions of tiny transactions that are running your body.
So what are these life-or-death transactions we're talking about? Well, let's start with the very essence of how we move and how we think.
We tend to think protein is what gives muscles their power. And yeah, that's part of the story. But calcium is the biological spark plug. It is the thing that flips the switch and tells our muscles to actually move. Every single contraction, from a deadlift at the gym to just blinking your eyes, is kicked off by calcium. And here's exactly how it works. Your brain sends the command. Sure, but look at step 2. Absolutely nothing happens until a flood of calcium ions rushes into those muscle cells. They grab onto a protein, which then moves another protein out of the way, and only then can the muscle fibers actually grab on and contract. It's really that simple. No calcium, no movement. Period. And you know what? The exact same idea applies to your entire nervous system. An electrical signal zips down a nerve, but then it hits a dead end, a physical gap called a synapse. It can't jump across. So what's the trigger that releases the chemical messengers to carry that signal over the gap? You guessed it, a sudden rush of calcium. It's the spark for every thought you have. And this isn't just some abstract biology, okay? This is real-world stuff. If you've ever had that pins and needles feeling in your hands or feet, that has a name. It's called paresthesia, and it's often one of the very first signs of low calcium, because your nerves are literally misfiring without enough of it to send their signals correctly.
Okay, so calcium is the spark for our nerves and muscles, but that electrical role becomes even more critical when we look at our most important muscle of all, the heart.
Deep inside your heart's natural pacemaker, it's the constant ebb and flow of calcium that creates the electrical spike telling your heart to beat. It literally sets the rhythm of your life. And that's why even small imbalances can lead to some seriously dangerous irregular heartbeats.
Calcium also fine-tunes your entire circulatory system. It controls the tiny, smooth muscles that line your blood vessels. When calcium flows into those muscles, the vessels tighten up and your blood pressure goes up. When it flows out, they relax and your pressure goes down. It's this constant, delicate dance.
In fact, if you want proof of how powerful this is, look no further than one of the most common types of blood pressure medication out there, calcium channel blockers. They do exactly what the name says. They just block calcium from getting into those cells, which forces the blood vessels to chill out, relax, and brings the blood pressure down. It's a perfect example of calcium's power in action.
All right, so calcium is powering our movements and setting our rhythms. But it also acts like a microscopic first responder when there's an emergency.
So let's say you get a cut. Your body immediately kicks off this incredibly complex chain reaction called the coagulation cascade. We always hear about things like platelets and vitamin K, but there is another absolutely essential piece to that puzzle.
So, here's a little trivia for you. In this whole cascade of numbered factors, what do you think calcium's official title is?
It's clotting factor 4. That's right. It's not just a helper, it's not an assistant, it is an officially designated factor. Without factor 4, the whole chemical reaction that forms a scab just breaks down. The bleeding doesn't stop like it should.
And if we zoom in even smaller, calcium acts like a universal messenger boy inside our cells. Think of it like this. A hormone is like a mail carrier that shows up at your cell's front door. But the mail carrier doesn't go inside, it just knocks. That knock triggers a release of calcium inside the cell.
and it's the calcium that then carries the message to the rest of the cell's machinery, telling it what to do next. So, let's just pull all this together. We really need to rebrand calcium in our minds. It's not just the bone builder, it is the life sustainer. That vital 1%, that's what powers every muscle, fires every nerve, sets the rhythm of your heart, stops you from bleeding, and carries messages inside your cells. It is the engine running in the background every single second of your life.
So, knowing all that, how do we make sure we are properly fueling that critical 1%?
And here's the good news, you don't have to chug milk to do it. There are so many great non-dairy sources. Dark leafy greens like kale and collards are fantastic. Canned sardines and salmon are absolute powerhouses, especially if you eat the soft edible bones. And you've got lots of fortified foods out there, like tofu or even orange juice, that are great options too.
But the key word with any food is bioavailability, which basically means how much your body can actually absorb and use. So, is just eating these foods the whole story? And the answer is a big no. See, calcium is a team player. It absolutely needs its partners. It needs vitamin D to act like a doormat, opening the door from your gut into your bloodstream. And then it needs magnesium to flip the switch and turn that vitamin D into its active form. They all have to work together. So I'll just leave you with this one last thought. Knowing what you know now, that it's not the calcium locked away in your skeleton, but that tiny active 1% in your blood that is literally keeping your heart beating at this very moment, how might you look at your next meal just a little bit differently?